can't find a seconder usually when I propose this, but I don't care. I don't need a seconder. My own opinion is enough for me, and I claim the right to have it defended against any consensus, any majority, anywhere, any place, any time. And anyone who disagrees with this, pick a number, get in line, and kiss my ass.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed are greater than the legal services provided by other lawyers. You found the Backstory Podcast. I'm Harry Steele, backwoods Southern lawyer and candidate for mayor of the city of Bay Minette. I sure am glad you guys didn't bail on me when you found that out. I'm joined today by my co-host and clients, Mr. Rip. How are things down in Fairhope?
Well, right now it reminds me a little bit about being in Vietnam in a monsoon. It's been raining all morning, and all the banana trees and everything is soaking wet and kind of like deja vu.
And our other co-host, how are things out in Texas? Rains terrible. We'll get to the numbers. I'll assure you they're terrible.
Pretty damn terrible. Yeah. On top of it all, we got a little tropical storm going to lay into Matagorda and all that down there. Yeah, it's fantastic to be here in Texas.
Yeah, you're supposed to get a direct hit on that. Texas is.
Yeah, that's just more of you guys believing what the man's telling you.
Yeah, all right.
So let's see what John Hopkins has to say. 15,594,551 total confirmed cases worldwide.
Wow.
With 600 and over 600,000 deaths. 4,073,243 cases in the United States. That ain't so good.
No, it's terrible.
And we're right at 145,000 deaths, aren't we?
Yep.
Let's see. So LA's still ahead of Maricopa County. Cook County in third. Miami-Dade fourth. Where are you? Oh, Ranger in fifth now. Jeez.
God bless Texas.
That's bad, man.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible here. We just had a press conference with County Judge Lena Hidalgo today, and she announced that she is compelling schools, districts in Harris County to not offer on-campus availability until at least September 8th. And she pleaded with the religious schools of the region because, you know, the government has no power over them, but begged for them to adhere to the same guideline. Said, we are asking everybody in Harris County, keep your kids home till at least September 8th. We don't feel like schools are ready to open, and we're gambling with the lives of our children. And I got to agree with her. I've signed my son up for online learning, and he'll start the school year virtually and probably will complete the school year virtually if things don't dramatically improve. And I'll save it for a little bit later, but just about any education professional from your local school principal all the way up to the goddamn White House, I'm going to tell you right now, you're gambling with the lives of children now. But I'll leave it at that for the time being.
All right.
Well, I think what's going to happen, and like I said, the one who is going to make the decision as to who the kids go to school or not is going to be mama.
All right. So let's see what happened here in Baldwin County.
All right.
Schools are scheduled to reopen August 12th, but teachers return to work on August 3rd, which is a week from Monday. WKRG.com mobile journalist Blake Brown has looked at what safety measures are in place to protect everyone on campus. He's live tonight with the latest. Blake?
Hey, Devin. Yeah, of course, teachers want to make sure that their students are safe when they return to class next month, but they also want to make sure they're safe as well when they walk back through these doors.
We're open to schools unless my board gives me further direction.
For now.
Period. Okay? Not maybe. Period.
Yeah.
That's the plan. Superintendent Eddie Tyler confirms about 60 teachers are retiring before the new school year.
Wait, Did you hear that? 60 teachers are
60
retiring.
teachers.
Some of them
All at one time.
and what could happen.
When you send your children to traditional school, accept the risk that your child will come in contact with the coronavirus.
If a student is showing symptoms of the virus, they'll be sent to the school nurse and placed in an isolation room while a parent is notified. Throughout each day, classrooms, restrooms, and cafeterias will be sanitized, but the school system is going a step further.
There will be a shutdown time in the evenings that I'm expecting every principal to do.
Teachers will be asked to leave by a certain time each evening so buildings can be properly cleaned. 1,500 substitute teachers are also on standby if needed. Superintendent Tyler.
We don't want to burn up too much of their open source material, so I'll end on this note by saying that they expect 85% of the school kids to show up first day of school.
Well, I think that's the telling number. I think that's the telling number, and that was in the Lanyap article. 85% of parents, the article quoted 85% of parents favored in-person learning and sending the kids back to school. And only 1,300 kids district-wide had signed up for distance learning.
Oh.
I think that tells you everything you need to know. Parents have to have their kids in school because they can't afford to keep them at home because they've got to go to work at their essential jobs. And we've been deemed an essential industry by the Department of Homeland Security, so we've got to get our schools open and get them in there. Bullshit. The 5th largest school district in the country, Houston ISD, has just said, you know what, we're going to wait. We're going to wait till the 8th of September before we even consider bringing students back into our facilities. This is the 5th largest school district in the country. And we said, you know what, we're going to back off of gambling with the lives of our children and not going to stand there and make a blanket statement that says, well, you know, if you send your kid to school, there's a very high likelihood they're going to be exposed to COVID. Really? Why don't we start selling?
If they walk out the front door, there's a likelihood they're going to be exposed to COVID. Listen to the governor.
I mean, it's ludicrous. It was one thing to say, you know what, we're going to make the service workers and all the essential workers go back because every goddamn Karen from Tallahassee to San Diego has got to have their Starbucks before they go to whatever the hell they do every day. They got to have that. So we're going to send everybody back to work and expose them to it. Now we're putting kids in the mix.
Well, Rain, some people don't have any choice. They need both incomes to make ends meet, and they don't have the luxury of one parent sacrificing their career to stay at home. And let me tell you another scenario.
And Harry, that being said, goes to the very point of what I think what Range is trying to say is that, look, even if they're sick, they're going to school.
Okay. Well, let me, and this is another reason why I want Pam to be on the podcast with us. I obviously haven't had my hair done in a while, but the lady that does hers, anyway, it's one-on-one and there aren't a bunch of people waiting or whatever. So anyway, she was telling her that she had a child and she's going into the 1st grade and she doesn't feel like she's, you know, if she quit doing everything she was doing, I'm sure she's capable of teaching this child to read. But this is one of the fundamental things that teachers are for, is teaching children to read. And so, I could imagine some parents that feel like they're doing a disservice being their child's teacher. Present company excluded, but you understand what I mean.
You know what happens when a kid comes down with COVID-19?
They give it to everybody in their hemisphere.
First thing they do is spread it.
You know, if that kid goes into the hospital, their parents can't visit them. Yeah. Their parents got.
I mean, the idea of a child sick in the hospital with that's terrifying.
So it's absolutely terrifying. Yet we have a system We live in an American society and an economic system that says you can't afford to not risk your child's life. I don't care who you are. I don't care what privilege you have. I don't care how abundantly bad your financial situation could be. You're going to take that chance?
Potentially, it's not a call I have to make.
It's a broken system.
It is a broken system because
we stand by and allow it to happen, the longer it'll stay broken.
And another repercussion of it too is that you got 25 million people that are going to lose their health insurance because they've been so far off from their companies that normally provide it. And we're going to have a health crisis with health insurance here immediately following this, or right in the middle of this, because we can't get the health insurance straight either. So it's one mess right after the other.
Boys, let me
like I said, though, when it comes to
we went from on June 15th, there were 900 cases a day. Now we're up to 2,100 cases a day and almost 75,000 confirmed cases in the state of Alabama. It's like you said, mama's going to make this decision. And
that's it.
And the ones that can afford to, they're going to homeschool their kids or do the virtual school program or whatever. I don't think 85% of kids are going to show up the first day of school. If they do, I'll eat this damn microphone.
I'll eat the other part of it because I don't believe that's going to happen.
All right, so let's get on to municipal elections before Raines eats his microphone.
Yeah.
All right.
So shall we begin in Bay Minette?
Let's begin in Bay Minette, man.
So you guys are both S's and R's. So what? Do you have any idea what kind of thrill it is to be 46 years old and finally have your name at the top of a list? Because we live in an alphabetical society, right? First time I've ever been on the top of the list, right? Certainly wasn't GPA. I was close, but not on top. So I'm running against Mayor Wills, and I've been, we've been talking about things going on around here for a while. And I think it's time for these old guys to go. And I have a plan for Bay Minette Landing. Just some concepts. I also intend to have if I'm elected, try to convince the council that we need to buy some less lethal equipment so that none of our police officers have to kill anybody.
Which would have saved at least 4 lives we know of.
In Baldwin County. Not necessarily
in Baldwin County.
But in Baldwin County for sure. So, and if they won't do it, I'll use my first year's salary and do it. And there's Paul's phone.
Yeah, but I heard yours go off too, so give me a break. Sorry.
That's all right. So I want to show you one more. And when I say Bay Minette Landing, I want you to see how close Bay Minette Airport and the municipal limits are from the river. So,
what is down there now for Bay Minette?
Well, it's unincorporated. Bay Minette stops right here about 3/4 of the way. See, that's the end of the runway right there.
Yeah.
So it's a mile.
Right.
Yep, that was on that time.
But I mean,
you're running for mayor and stuff, Paul. People call you all the time.
Right. Well, what's on what is available there for the general public in that area that you're proposing? Is there anything already there?
Nothing like that. Nothing like what I'm talking about. There's a bar where you can get, if you don't have a weapon, one will be assigned to you at the door, and a bunch of mobile homes.
Yeah.
There's hardly any. If you look at the parcels, there's very few property owners to deal with. So,
well, if I was a resident of Bay Minette, I would much rather see that being built than a $34 million, 640 bed jail right in the center of my town.
So public safety reform, one leg, another leg is fried chicken. There ain't a damn fried chicken joint left in this town.
That's
And the
them.
other leg is barbecue. There used to be 4 barbecue places here. And if you take care of that kind of stuff, everything else just kind of falls into place.
No barbecue or no chicken
If
places.
you don't
in
have
Bayonet.
an economy that can support a fried chicken joint and a barbecue joint, and let me say this one more time from the cheap seats, Dollar General stores are not economic development.
No.
We have 3 dollar stores in the Bay Minette city limits, and the last one got built within eyesight of my grandmother's grave. They built the damn thing right next to the cemetery. So I have some interesting ideas about zoning enforcement too, having been a city planner for 7 years. So you're getting me on the cheap.
All right.
All right. So let's move on. Ann Corbett is running against Pete Sellers. Now, Pete owns Gulf Coast Motor Company here in town, and Ann Corbett is the widow. I guess she's the incumbent, but she took her late husband's spot when he passed in office.
Uh-huh.
Mike Phillips is unopposed in District 2. Johnny Biggs, who is, I think he's been on the council for at least 4 terms, is once again being challenged by Matt Franklin, and Matt ran last time as well. William Taylor is District 4, and Shannon Clemens runs unopposed in District 5. Should be interesting. So it'll only be 3 races to get people to turn out. So this is a important one to turn out for if you're interested in the future of your city. And just let me say, if I am elected, this kind of stuff will continue because I think having open dialogue is important. Let's talk about Daphne, Paul.
All right. You have Steve Carney.
Carrie.
Running for mayor. I believe he's being supported and financed by Scott Boone, which is also known as Catalyst. We'll come back to that in just a little bit. And then Mr. I'm having a hard time reading this. There we go. Robin Lejeune is also running. Michael Hobbs Sr.
Yep.
And Serena Vaughn. And
so I have an interview set up with Selena Vaughn for tomorrow, and this is an open invite for anyone who is a municipal candidate in Baldwin County. Get in touch with us. We'll be glad to set up a Google Meet. All you need is a laptop with a web camera on it, and we'll give you 15 minutes to tell people whatever you want to say about your campaign, and we'll post it to Facebook and YouTube for you. Go ahead, Paul. Sorry. I have one of those set up already with Selena for tomorrow morning.
Well, good. I can't see but down to District 3 on that page.
Okay. So District 1 is Tommy Conway, the incumbent. District 2, Steve Olson. These are people running unopposed. District 3, Joel Coleman, the incumbent. District 4, Doug Goodland, the incumbent, running unopposed. District 5 is Ron Scott, the incumbent, and he's being challenged by Amber Smith. I'd like to talk to her for sure. And then 2 newcomers to District 6, Benjamin Hughes and Wesley Wright. And then District
Right. I believe one of those is being sponsored too by Catalyst, but I'm not sure. But so we'll check on that.
So, Fairhope, Paul.
Okay, the way it ended up in Fairhope was we still got the BP guy on the paddleboard, John Manolis, Annette Sanders, who nobody seems to know too much about, but she signed up as well. Sherry Sullivan, a former disgruntled employee who sued the city, is running. That ought to be interesting. And Karen Wilson.
I'll go ahead and say some of the things that have been said about her are not nice and should be taken off.
No, in fact, In fact, many months ago, that conversation came up, and I knew the way that Fairhope was and everything, so I kind of thought might get kind of rough. But Sherry has taken a real beating on social media. Some of the comments are very rude. Okay, in council place number 1 is Jack Burrell. Please, anybody, do not vote for him. We got to get rid of him. We have someone that's running against him is Deb Hopkins, Hopkins. I think it's a great deal of irony that Jack should have a woman running against him. And I can't see where any woman in Fairhope would possibly vote for Jack. But Deb has a Facebook page up and a profile, and I believe she's also doing an interview with Fairhope Now, and we'll be sharing that Fairhope Now Facebook site. Place number 2 was Corey Martin. He's the one that secured that with no opposition. Congratulations to Corey. He's the first African-American to sit on the Fairhope Council. Unopposed and didn't have to spend a dime. That's the way to go.
Who was the Class Act gentleman that bowed out of that? We need to.
Mr. Ben Smith. And as I understand it, and I hope I get it right, that he had a heart-to-heart conversation with Corey and felt like Corey's heart was really in the right place, and he wanted to give him the opportunity. So Mr. Smith withdrew, and Corey became, by default, unopposed winner.
And I watched his Fairhope Now interview. It was good.
You did? Okay, good. And then on now on the fair, that's right, Corey Martin had a Fairhope Now interview too, people that want to go to Fairhope Now and look at it. Jimmy Conyers went back in. He's the only one of the 5 council that is going to hold on to his seat unanimously because he's unopposed. Then in place 4, we have Robert Brown is running against Howell Gibbons. And I do not know much about Mr. Gibbons, but hoping to very soon. And without knowing anything about Mr. Gibbons, I would endorse him over Robert Brown any day of the week, who's got pending complaints with the Ethics Commission and the Attorney General. Council place 5 is Kevin Boone, and that he's running, and the challenger is Joshua Gammon, and that's the young man we were talking about that was on Fairhope Now that gave a very good interview. And I think it's about time to rotate out the old and bring in the new with Joshua. So hopefully we'll see how that goes. Now, the candidates for the council and mayor that are being supported by Catalyst are Sherry Sullivan, Jack Burrell, Robert Brown, and Kevin Boone. Those are all Catalyst candidates.
Absolutely.
So people you need to pay attention. That's the very people you need to get out of office, not in office. All right, Harry.
So let's talk Foley. Their incumbent mayor is, I guess he's extremely old, isn't he? Wasn't he like 75 when he ran 10 years ago? Anyway, he's not running again. I mean, I think he did a good job, and they've made some idiotic public improvements, but they look good. That damn sky bridge over 59 down there is just waiting for a log truck to take it out. But anyway, Aaron Bika, have no idea who these people are. Ralph Helmich, I guess that's the hyphenation between Hellman's mayonnaise and the sandwich.
No.
Why you got to do him like that? You don't know that.
I'd have picked on him in school about it. Council District 1, Barry Hughes and Wayne Trawick. 2, Vera Quintes. It looks like District 3 has our old buddy Richard Dayton running.
Yep, people pay attention. He's a guy that has stepped out here and keeps trying to get the sewers regulated and get the attention of people, and now he's putting his money where his mouth is and running for office.
Hot damn.
Good
That's
for
what I'm talking
him.
about.
So then City Council District 4, Rick Blackwell, and City Council District 5 running unopposed is Charlie Ebert the third. Don't know that fella either, but any of them that want to get up with us, we'll be glad to put their information out there. All right, City of Spanish Fort. Do you know any of these guys?
I do not believe so.
Okay, well, it's so nebulous. I hate to even cover it because it's almost impossible to read. This is a photograph that somebody had to take. This was actually posted on the wall or the glass panel at City Hall.
That's kind of confusing.
It's not online. So let's move on to some progressive places that actually do a nice job with their website. City of North Shores, 2020.
A real progressive heartbeat in the southern part of Alabama.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have the incumbent Robert Kraft being challenged by John Bays. Anybody know anything about Mr. Bays?
I do not, but I wish him luck.
All right, we gotta hunt up something on him. City Council Place 1. Again, these are people that they don't have to live in a particular district. They can just say, I don't like Raines Rushing in Place 1. I'm gonna run against him.
Right.
So that's how all this is going. Yeah. And I'm not going to run through all the names. There's a Garris here and a Phil Harris there and a Steve Jones. You know,
I will say on the Gulf Shores thing, I know of one candidate. I believe there's 2 or 3 that were all inspired to run because of the council and mayor and planning all rejecting any comments from them about the apartment complex being built in their backyard. And that Nan Hedgepath, she's running in place 2. She's very much like Richard Dayton. She's putting her money where her mouth is and getting involved in politics.
She's mad as hell and she ain't gonna take it anymore.
Right. And I believe there's a couple of others there. It might be John Bays too. We'll just have to check. That all got inspired over the way they were treated on that apartment complex, which still is in court in a lawsuit.
So the city of Orange Beach has done it up all classy like they always do, handwritten. Tony Kennan is being challenged by Dan Hayes for mayor. Do you know anything about Dan?
I don't. That name sounds familiar, but I don't. I know Jeffrey Boyd there running in place 2. He is the one that helped Mr. Elliott get where he is. Thank you, Jeff.
Well, there's a lot of us to blame for that. I'll take some blame. Do you know Annette Mitchell or is that Cardwell? I don't know him. Of course, Jerry Johnson's going back in place 3, and Joni Blaylock, she's been there a while, and this Joe Fierro fella. We wish him luck as well.
Right.
So somebody actually put this on there. Somebody went to the trouble of typing it out, and I snuck it off their page.
All right.
And then, of course, there's the mayor in Spanish Fort. We wanted to make sure that everybody remembered that he has an assault charge against him from slapping a city employee who has since been retired or fired for insubordination, no less.
Now, who is his opponent?
Dadgummit.
Now you got to go back to that ridiculous photograph to try to tell you who that is.
No kidding. I don't know. I can. There are several of them. The picture that I have, somebody cut it off. Unfortunately.
Well, whoever's running against him, let's get behind him and support him.
And then there's the big red barn over here next to the nicest subdivision in Bay Minette. I thought I'd throw that up there.
I can't believe anybody could build that in the middle of a residential area.
And every time I come home, I have to ride by it.
I don't know how in the world they ever got a permit for that thing.
Well, there you go. Okay, so Richard Dayton is running for Council District 3 in Foley, right?
Right.
And so Paul and I, you need to go watch it if you haven't. And I'm not going to subject anybody to it, but Paul and I went to the Baldwin County Commission meeting on Tuesday. And Paul, why don't you tell us what you said? That might be
Basically, the things that I covered was first of all, I think Baldwin County Economic Development Alliance. Every time I go to a meeting and I see them, they got their hands out for money. And I think it'd be nice if they were compelled to come to the commission meeting and turn in a quarterly report and report exactly what they have been doing, because a lot of times you'll see their name attached to something that they didn't have remotely anything to do with that person coming to Baldwin County. They were coming here anyway. The other thing we mentioned was I just found it starting that the city of Bay Minette, last time they spent $30-odd million was the mega site. And I don't think that there would be anybody that would not agree that the mega site has been a total colossal failure. So here we are 10 years later.
Didn't even have a sign on it until you and I started our podcast and started giving them the dickens.
Right. But I mean, if I lived in Bay Minette, I would be sitting in Bay Minette and I would be saying, no, wait a minute. We dumped $35 million down on the mega site. Now we're going to build a jail that's going to be $30 million plus right in the center of Bay Minette. How is that beneficial to the consumers in Bay Minette? And what is going to be the operating cost of that facility? So I thought it might be a good idea to move the jail facility they want to build out to the mega site, contact the state. They're looking for places to build new prisons. Build a prison out there too, and then you can lock everybody in Baldwin County up out on the mega site. But last but not least, the thing I brought up to them that I thought was pretty telling of our news around is that the strawman case has been written by Lanyap, and it's about a land fraud. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. Now, Lanyap has what they call their series, and the strawman case is one of the series. And it's about land fraud. It gives a spider graph of all of the people that are involved and goes into great detail. Obviously, fraudulent behavior and breaking the law. And it also involves one of the previous county commissioners, Tucker Dorsey, who we called straw man. And no one does anything. The district attorney's looking at it. The sheriff knows it there. Everybody's reading about it. But nobody wants to do anything about it. And here again, it involves Baldwin County Sewer Service, and the owner of Baldwin County Sewer Service spends far more time in Costa Rica than he does here. So the commission feels as if they're hamstrung because they're saying the legislative delegation of Baldwin County should be the ones proposing this type of legislation, and they're not doing it. They're more involved with trying to come up with more planning districts. What is it? Planning districts and historic districts. What is it?
It's not a planning district. It's a district that excludes any kind of land use plan.
Correct.
It's the dumbest thing you ever heard of.
Right.
Okay. So let me get around to my beef with the county commission. Okay.
Sure.
So, and this goes back to the private sewer thing and our meeting with Mr. Drayton and us. You know, I've been to see an attorney up there at the Public Service Commission twice personally. So here was my ask. I want them to put us on the agenda to talk about regulation of private utilities in Baldwin County. And I said, I want your lawyer to be prepped to have a debate with me about the provisions of Title 22, Chapter 12C, which says, in general, the Public Service Commission will regulate all private utilities in the state of Alabama unless you have a constitutional amendment that says they will be regulated in some other manner, which, of course, Baldwin County has Constitutional Amendment 781 that says we will come up with whatever kind of regulation we want to at the local level. What it doesn't say is what happens in the meantime, because the meantime has been 12 years. They've been using our right of ways like the property belonged to them without paying a franchise fee. There's no as-built. We don't know what in the world there are no minimum specifications in case they go belly up and we end up having to run the system. I say we, the county.
Your tax dollars going to Costa Rica.
Well, we know that's where he is. And one more time, whatever they decide to do, what I want to know is, what can the county commission do today? Do they need the legislative delegation to pass a general bill of local application? Great. I'll start drafting it tomorrow. What is the next step? This Mr. Magoo stuff, everybody pointing around in a damn circle at each other. I'm done with that bull crap.
Yeah, something's got to get off the mark here for sure.
Well, absolutely. So anyway, I've had enough of Baldwin County Sewer Service.
Well, we should have any of our listeners. It'd be helpful if you'd call up and raise hell like we are about the sewer system, because it's going to catch up with us later.
So now I really want to ramp up everybody's blood pressure, and I want to talk about some of these cases that are outstanding related to the sheriff's department, or things being investigated by the major crimes unit. Of course, there's the Yates eviction where they shot 114 rounds, evicting a mentally disturbed man from the mobile home that happened to belong to the father of one of the sheriff's deputies. Then there's Derek Powell, mentally ill 29-year-old, shot dead in Daphne. The major crimes unit, of course, they said he had a gun and he was brandishing it and all that. We talked about it when it happened. Joseph and Kevin Andrews are the people who were hit head on by the illegal immigrant Mexicans that they were chasing the wrong way down the interstate. They died in a fiery crash. And then Jonathan Victors, the 35-year-old from Metairie, Louisiana, who was killed shot with a machine gun at 15 feet away. And that's the case that the Lanyap has been fighting for. We covered it last week, Rob's article, Damn the Torpedoes, about the sheriff's department not wanting to give up the body cam footage even after the dadgum shooting was cleared. And he claims it's highly detailed note-taking, that a body camera is nothing more than pen and paper for the 21st century. Okay? So let's go do a backstory. Or let's prep our audience for one. So,
which is a lot more local.
It's a lot more local. So this happened in Daphne, Fairhope.
Fairhope.
These people are from Fairhope, right?
Correct.
So Brandon Hastings, who I did not know the race of any of these people until right before we went on, but he happens to be a white guy, and he died in 2003. Murray Lawrence Jr., who's a black guy, got life without parole. You understand there really is a death squad that works for NAACP, but if you ain't on death row, they don't care about you. They don't come down here and investigate people who got life without parole, okay? Right. Interestingly enough, the body was found in Mississippi. So I don't know why. I guess they're saying the crime scene was here, something like that. So this other character was the last person to have seen the victim alive, and was allegedly had been stealing parts off the victim's car and selling them to pay his rent. So all three of the witnesses against Mr. Lawrence had major drug felonies hanging over them. And of course, they were all dropped when they started to cooperate with the state. The witnesses told law enforcement that Lawrence was shot, that he shot the victim in the head 18 times. So they kept telling the same story, right? So the records show that not only was there a post-mortem done on the body, obviously he was a murder victim. So they did, that a pathologist looked at his body and said, he died of strangulation. So then our investigators here in Baldwin County are so convinced that he really was shot in the head 18 times, because they have these three crackheads that are telling them that's what happened, that they go exhume the body for a second time, and the same medical examiner says, yep, he smells a little different, but he died of the same thing, strangulation. So this whole...
And they actually had what was it? pronunciation? The Hyric bone, the bone in the
that was
throat
broken
that
in Jeffrey
is usually crushed
Epstein.
during.
So when they
The
dug
high-
him up, a hyoidal bone.
Correct. And
So
they
it's
lost
like
the bone,
JFK's autopsy.
and that bone has been
Well,
lost.
anyway, he died of strangulation, not being shot in the head 19 times. And there was also some allegation of maybe his lawyer didn't do everything he could have for him. One of those kind of allegations. So anyway, we're gonna get deep into it. I'll guarantee you, I know the reporter that covered this story back in 2005. The verdict came down Friday, May 13th, 2005, at the Baldwin County Courthouse. So we're gonna keep everybody up to date on that as best we can.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about that particular case quite a bit. So people stay tuned. You're going to find this one real interesting. We're going to dive deep into this one, to tell you the truth. And
Okay.
Harry, go ahead.
Keep going.
I was going to tell you David Ferreira is the one that wrote the articles on the jury finds Fairhope man guilty. And that was by David Ferrara. I believe that was AL.com. I mean, the Mobile paper. So we could go back and read some of that off of those articles.
So I know you guys think that I've beat this.
You asked me about that,
but I want to go. I want to have one more stab at it, because this just happened this week. Okay.
I don't wear comfortable shoes. I refuse to wear comfortable shoes. And you shouldn't wear comfortable shoes. I refuse
I'll
to wear
cut this
comfortable
out.
shoes.
Don't sweat
You
it.
shouldn't wear comfortable shoes either.
Leaders from the Capitol building. The legislation vote leaders from the Capitol building. The legislation vote 113, and it now moves to the Senate. It comes as a number of statues and memorials of Confederate leaders and rapist figures have been taken down across the country. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer sponsored the bill and spoke about its importance before yesterday's vote.
This is not a partisan issue. This is an issue about principles that America wants to lift up and display to the rest of the world. We have been, as so many presidents have said,
11 statues of Confederate officials sent by states in Statuary Hall. So what this bill would do would be to the rule, which allows for states to send statues to say that states can't send any Confederate officials, statues of Confederate officials.
So these statues were sent by the states at the request of the federal government. They said, please send us 2 statues of anyone you'd like for us to put in the rotunda.
So now what are they going to send them back?
And
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But you know, so along those in this same bill reigns, just to show you how ridiculous I think all this is, and you may think it's a great thing. I don't know. You're entitled to your own opinion. But this is the bust of former Supreme Court Chief Justice Roger Taney. Each one of our Chief Justices gets a bust, and they are placed in the rotunda or in the federal building, Supreme Court building. Anyway, the bill calls for the removal of the bust of former Supreme Court Chief Justice Roger Taney, who wrote the infamous Dred Scott decision in 1857, which declared slaves were not citizens and did not have the right to sue. Okay? So,
yeah.
Here's the thing. It doesn't take away from the fact that he held the position and that there's a bust of everyone else up there. I don't know. I just don't. Just where is the outrage line, Reigns? Just. I mean, like, are we going to start taking down Supreme Court justices who made rulings against women's suffrage? I mean, just where does it end with this outrage, whatever you want to call it.
When the
Is
cops
this statue being in the Supreme Court building that no one even knew was there, is this offending someone? The bust of a man who lived in 1857. I'm just curious.
Here we go.
The guy that wrote the Dred Scott decision could kiss my ass.
And mine, sir. And mine, good sir.
Take his bus down and put Thurgood Marshall's up there. What? Great. That's fantastic.
Thurgood Marshall's already got a bus somewhere. He was that's the thing.
Put something else up. Who cares? Everybody that looks at this thing has got to Google who Roger Taney is. What does it matter if they replace the statue? They could replace half the statues in the United States with people that don't even with Pee Wee Herman, and people wouldn't notice because they don't know who any of these people are. To hell with it. If it saves a life, if it brings the spotlight to injustice, I'm for it.
It makes me think your movement is it turns people like me off because it makes absolutely no sense, and there's no end to it. Range Russian, you remember I said that. There's got to be a line. There's a line on the right. When you go racist, we throw you out of the Republican Party. On the left, I don't know where the line is, Range.
They don't throw you out of the Republican Party for being racist. They put you in the fucking White House. Don't tell me that.
Whatever.
Oh boy.
You got to be kidding me. We're in the spot we're in right now because of racists who didn't get kicked out of things. Believe you me.
He wasn't my candidate, but but calling some guy that grew up in New York a racist, I don't buy it. So next. Moving on, I wanted to talk a little bit about this little hat trick, or name change or whatever you want to call it. What do you know about Catalyst and Associates dissolving and becoming Boone Consulting, Paul?
Well, the Catalyst, first has been around for a while. It started out as Stacy Haygood and Elliott. And it was a consulting group that had a pretty phenomenal record of putting 100% of the people they backed into office. And what finally happened was Mr. Elliott became a commissioner. Mr. Haygood became a mayor of Daphne. And and then unfortunately, Mr. Stacy recently passed away. So then it became Catalyst Consulting or Associates, and that was formed in Fairhope by Scott Boone, and I can't remember, there was another Scott, and I can't remember Scott's last name. He decided he wanted to get out of it, and the name Catalyst after the 2018 election began to be pretty toxic, and then Jerry Carl,
The shine wore off.
The shine wore off. And then in the Jerry Carl election, of course, Catalyst lost there, and Mr. Carl became our congressman. So what happened, the name got so toxic that Scott Boone, who is the same thing as Catalyst, decided to name it Boone Consulting. And it's very telling that his father is Kevin Boone, who is one of the 3 Bs running on the Fairhope Council. Now, Scott Boone and Catalyst and the council are all supporting Sherry Sullivan, and they're all running as a block vote. And that's the danger of this. This is like an organized pack of people that, they vote the same way. The last 3.5 years under Brown, Boone, and Burrell have just been hell. I mean, it's just been one chaotic thing after another, anything that they could do to obstruct the whole government. And then they've recruited Sherry Sullivan to run, which I think was a horrible mistake. Sherry has a high school education. The current incumbent mayor has a 4-year degree in finance, and perfectly obvious the way she's turned the entire town around and put it in a debt-free situation. That's almost hard to hear. But Catalyst is we know that during the Catalyst period that they ran well over $1 million through their coffers, and that went to judges and candidates, some of which are sitting over there in Baldwin County now. And this little cabal needs to be broken up for sure. A Catalyst Council, Catalyst candidates are not in your best interest. They are representing developers and promoters and stuff like that. That's how they get their money. That's where they're getting their money from. So just be leery of any of the Catalyst candidates, be they in Daphne, Baldwin County, or Fairhope.
That's right.
Interestingly enough, look at how far up Spanish Fort is creeping towards Bay Minette.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Talking about down 225.
Well, not only up, I mean, through what we used to call White House, that White House Fork area out here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they're almost up. They're almost all the way up Doleave Creek to Bay Minette. And they're going to continue to move up and develop 225. You know, the question is Bay Minette going to take advantage of our position to be the gateway to the Delta and to come up with a class facility? You know, we're already there.
Well, Bay Minette is not, the difference between Bay Minette and Fairhope is that Fairhope people now, we probably have about 7,500 new voters since 2016. That's a phenomenal amount of new voters. And the amount of people that have lived there less than 10 or 12 years far outnumber the status quo. So that's what you're beginning to see is the new people coming in, becoming engaged in community. They don't like the corruption and they don't like what's going on. And you're beginning to see some change. You don't see that as radically in Bay Minette because you don't have the influx of people that we have in the Fairhope area. And I think that's the difference. As soon as somebody starts shining the light on what's going on up there in Bay Minette, they may start listening to you a little bit better.
Let's hope so. All right, gentlemen, I've come to the end of my lecture. What do you guys have?
Well, I got
Rains, go ahead.
I just want to play a quick game. It's a very specific game. It's called 2020 or 1960. All right, I'm gonna read a series of quotes, and I want you to tell me whether an Alabama public official said it in the 1960s or in 2020. All right,
go for it.
All right,
here we go. Alabama will not be bullied into a perpetual consent decree to govern our prison system.
Oh, that's recent.
Okay, that's absolutely correct. That was said by the Attorney General, Steve Marshall. There was a report.
Long time.
A report released today by the Department of Justice, or actually it was last night, said that Alabama corrections officers frequently use excessive force and sometimes deadly force in violation of of inmates' constitutional rights in 12 out of 13 prisons in the state of Alabama, the Department of Justice reviewed. They killed a guy. They beat some of them into a coma, effectively giving them a life sentence. The report gives Alabama officials 49 days to address the concerns. So let's go back to the game. Hang on.
I needed a C. It's both. The answer is both. It's a trick question, Alex. The answer is what is both 1965 and 2020?
I stand here today as governor of this sovereign state and refuse to willingly submit to an illegal usurpation of power by the central government.
1861.
Nope. That was
1964.
That was in 1963. That was his speech at
60?
the door of the University of Alabama by Governor George
Right.
Wallace.
Right.
Damn, Rains, can you find somebody who's alive to quote?
Nor will we be pressured to reach such an agreement with federal bureaucrats conspicuously 53 days before a presidential election.
Trip Pittman.
Nope, that was also your State Attorney General Steve Marshall responding to the statement from the Department of Justice. Last but not least, I welcome a fight between our philosophy and the liberal left-wing dogma, which now threatens to engulf every man, woman, and child in the United States. I am in this race because I believe the American people have been pushed long enough, and that they, like you and I, are fed up with the continuing trend towards a socialist state, which now subjects the individual to the dictates of an all-powerful central government.
Shit, that sounds like Rand Paul.
Nope.
That sounds like Wallace.
That's Governor Wallace, 1964.
Yep.
That's what I thought. Like day before yesterday. So you know how you have a good woman that knows you better than you know yourself? Doodle got me a Washington Redskins football before they're all gone. They've been my team. I don't know why.
You've been a Redskins fan all your life?
I know, isn't that awful? The Saints are the Redskins, man. You know how it was, and the Saints sucked.
Well, at least you're not a.
They probably ran 1 million.
Not forever, but yeah.
They probably made 1 million of those balls to sell us last week.
A lot of
well, you know, in Lanyap, you want to go over some Lanyap stuff?
Absolutely.
One of the things was the completely different chaos. Music venues struggle amid COVID-19 spikes and mandates by Dale Leash. This is in Bay Briefs and Lanyap. And it's talking about the Sanger Theater and the music scene and how the COVID thing has really taken a toll on them. They only have 2 venues for the rest of the year for Sager, I think. And, you know, they're just upside down trying to decide what to do. And a lot of very great artists that are not being heard. But see if you want to read that article. It'll tell you a little bit more about the music scene. Then we have the cover story, which is New Year, New Normal. Coastal schools chart return to classes amid COVID-19 pandemic. That's Jason Johnson and Gabriel. And we talked to Gabriel Times, and we talked a good bit about the differences. Now, the Mobile public schools, they're kind of bucking the system. The superintendent, Mr. Threadgill, is bucking 89 schools and saying that he don't want to open until until September. And he also is the one that was parents are saying that, you know, they may not be bringing their kids to school. So we'll see what happens. That's in Mobile, but we'll see what's going to happen in Mobile and
you know how you know you're, you know how you,
on the first day of school.
In the crapper when you're George Lopez and you're playing at the Mobile.
How's that?
George Lopez is coming to the Sanger. Anyway.
When you what?
I said George Lopez is coming to the Sanger Theater.
Look, stand-up comedians who have bookings in places like the Sanger Theater, their careers are far from over. Any comedian that's working, that's got bookings anywhere right now, is successful. Believe me.
Is that how it is?
Yes, sir. Believe it. George Lopez is a bright and shining light for all us comedians. At least he's getting something.
Yeah.
He doesn't sell out spaceships, buddy. He'll sell out the Sanger
Theater. At Floribama, they've had to stop a lot of their acts that were really popular too, just because of the crowds inside the room. And one of the other articles in Lanyap, after years of combing through old cold case records, local authorities have secured the first conviction and sentence as a result of a federal program that helps test and retest hundreds of old sexual assault cases. This is a cold case that was closed, suspect in 1997, rape, sentenced to 22 years in prison. This by Jason Johnson. Now, all these people been raped. All these test kits are in a bloody warehouse. And it takes a federal program to give them money to go back and unwind them and convict these people. So you see, you got a problem on this side. And then you look at the problem with the case that we talked about just a minute ago in Fairhope. And it just reassures you that our judicial system in Baldwin County and sentence guidelines sure need to be looked at. Last in Lanyap was, last week there was an article called Mr. Nice Guy, and it was about our favorite BP guy on the paddleboard. And he wrote a letter to the editor, a little bit miffed that the article was called Mr. Nice Guy, I think. And then the second thing is he said that the article failed to mention that for my final 2 years at BP, I served as vice president of a 40,000 person organization. It also did not mention that I had a master's degree in conflict management. Okay, so you worked in conflict management for BP. Conflict management and BP was where they printed the money.
Take it or live it.
Because the way they solved all the problems was by printing money. And we still have people in Baldwin County dying and sick from BP, and you're wanting to brag about working for BP. I'm telling you, paddleboard guy, you need to go out in the middle of the bay. This ain't working. Oh, and the other thing too, Harry, that always gets me about the BP thing with Kant and Pittman, Boom Boom Pittman, is that all of that boom that was put out there, thousands of feet of boom, were secured by anchors, chains, ropes, cables, everything to secure that boom. So when they got ready to bring it back in, which they were paid to do, they went out there and just cut everything free and left it in the bay.
You'd be surprised.
Then there's one other.
Shrimp Mets have called me about that. A lot of people.
Well, yeah, and Keepers and Sierra Club and all these environmental groups, Coast Guard, nobody said a damn thing. That blew my mind. I really thought that was going to bring people out of the woodwork.
Maybe you and I can get
about
to go pick up all of Mr. Pittman's anchors.
Yeah, that are still out there. Then there was another much better letter to the article from Dean Mosier in Fairhope, and he was addressing the waterfront issue. Title of it is "Don't Hate, Participate," and he very eloquently described to people that, Fairhope is known for making changes, for being progressive somewhat. The park down by the pier would not be there if they had not graded away the bank. They still want to call the thing a historic bluff. But anyway, I think Mosier said it very well, that it doesn't make any difference what you're trying to change or what you want to do. There's always someone, that's against change. But when you're living in a town and a county that's the fastest growing county and city in the whole state, and you say you don't want to change, that is completely suicidal. It's just like, look, the council, the three Bs and Sherry Sullivan all wanted to have the arts and crafts show right in the middle of the COVID thing. Think about that, All right.
Paul, there is very little leadership from anybody around here during this pandemic. Very little.
Very little. And until we get testing, and until you get the testing that tells you the results of the test within 2 or 3 days, because it's no good if you get it 7 to 14 days later. That's what we need, is the testing. Testing is going to bring confidence. Confidence will convince people that they either have to wear the mask or just accept the fact that, you're going to have these idiots that will not wear the mask.
Well, we'll see. I think it'll. I think it's going to prove out that the people who have been cautious, to to a point. I mean, you don't need to lock yourself in your house and starve to death over this thing, but you need to be prudent when it comes to your own health and safety.
One of the things I saw, Harry, right before we went on, was a comparison of what were your chances if you were in a room with 10 people, 25 people, and then it went up in scale. And it was like 25% just with 10 people in the room. Your chances went up that much. So the more dense a crowd that you're in, the higher the chance you have of getting it. So it's like you said, use common sense, use social distance.
And it's all about viral load in the room you're in. Duh.
Right. Correct.
So Raines.
All right.
You still there? Is Raines still there? There he is. Okay. So you, maybe I do want to show the video at the end of this. Harry and Paul go to the county commission meeting, because I kind of got on them and I said, every time I read a newspaper article and it says illegal immigrants in Baldwin County in the same article, the sheriff and 2 commissioners fuel a jet and fly somewhere to let them know that it's an emergency down here, right? Well, the idea that we only have 1,400 people with COVID-19 in a county of 300,000 is a bunch of bullcrap. And that we need testing. Not just
go ahead and put it on. Go ahead and tag it.
Yeah.
Go ahead and tag it on the end of the podcast.
Well,
tag it on the end of the podcast.
And it's like Paul Ripp said. I'm gonna quote you, Paul. Getting them elected is the first step. Making them do their damn job after you get them elected is the second step. And that's what we were there to do.
Right.
From COVID to sewer. All the real sexy stuff. That's what we wanted to talk about. All right. Well, unless you gentlemen have another topic, I'm done for the day.
Nope. I'm fixing to go start and study and trying to find out who some of these people are.
And anyone who wants to do a Google Meet interview with Paul and I, Raines, if he's available, if you're a candidate for office in Baldwin County, I don't care what city it is. If you're running for a council position or mayor, we would love to talk to you and help you get your message out.
That is, unless you're Catalyst.
I want to talk to the Catalyst people. Absolutely.
Oh, I dare them to come on. Let's try that. That'd be good.
Well, I think it'd be interesting. I think
it'd be suicidal.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for your time, and I will see you. Let's think about this. We're going to do another regular episode next Friday, or we're going to try to do an update. If we get a few in the can, we'll do a special and run these videos with the candidates as we get them done. How about that?
All right.